For millennia, humans have traversed the Earth by water, be it strong waves, ferocious storms, or the chaos of naval warfare. There are different ways in which boats can overturn, making sea travel a risky gamble. While all oceans present their own set of dangers, there are some areas that are notably more treacherous and deadly than others. Join us today as we explore the 15 most dangerous oceans and seas around the world where life is always on the edge. Let's start off with number 15, Black Sea. Well, the Black Sea might seem like just another stretch of blue, but politically, it's boiling hot. Surrounded by countries like Ukraine, Turkey, Romania, and Russia, this sea became a central piece of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. It holds vital grain shipping lanes, energy reserves, and access to the Mediterranean, making it an essential geopolitical pawn. Russia has stationed a massive fleet here, while Turkey, playing gatekeeper, closed access to new warships early in the war, blocking NATO support. Ukraine, though outgunned, landed major blows, sinking the Moskva, the crown jewel of Russia's Black Sea fleet, and reclaiming Snake Island, where a Ukrainian soldier famously cursed at a Russian warship. It's not just about control, it's about influence, economy, and national identity. With so many military powers circling its waters and no clear resolution in sight, the Black Sea has become one of the tensest maritime regions on Earth. Sailing here means navigating more than just waves. It means navigating the front lines of a modern conflict. Number 14, Arctic Ocean. The Arctic Ocean doesn't need tsunamis or pirates to be deadly. Its danger lies in cold, silence, and isolation. Winter temperatures drop so low that ships freeze in place, sometimes crushed under shifting ice. For centuries, explorers dreamed of crossing the Northwest Passage, a shortcut connecting the Atlantic to the Pacific through Arctic waters. Many tried. Few returned. It wasn't until 1906 that Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen finally completed the route by sea. But climate change is rewriting the story. In 2007, Arctic summer ice retreated so drastically that the passage became navigable, sparking new global interest and, unsurprisingly, international disputes. Canada claims the passage as national waters. The US insists it's international, and behind all that, a rush for untapped resources and control over emerging trade routes. Between unpredictable ice, extreme weather, and geopolitical tension, the Arctic remains as hostile as ever. The cold won't kill you instantly, but if you're not careful, it'll leave you stranded in a frozen maze with no way out. Number 13, Mediterranean Sea. The Mediterranean sells itself as a paradise. Tourists see sparkling waters and postcard cities like Rome, Athens, and Barcelona. But dig deeper and this sea tells a darker story. Geographically, it's an enclosed basin. That means during storms, waves don't roll, they slam. Short, steep, and brutal, they've cracked ships like matchsticks. Add the Mistral winds, notorious for gusts up to 85 km/h in southern France, and things get even worse. Then there's the human side: conflict, desperation, and exploitation. The Mediterranean has become a major crossing point for migrants fleeing war, poverty, and oppression in North Africa and the Middle East. Desperate families pay everything they have to smugglers who cram them onto dinghies not fit for puddles. Between 2014 and 2019, nearly 20,000 people drowned. In 2022 alone, around 100 people per month died trying to cross. Behind the Instagram shots and cruise ship decks, the Mediterranean is one of the deadliest crossings on Earth. Its beauty hides a sea constantly claiming lives. Number 12, Indian Ocean. This ocean is massive, touching the shores of East Africa, India, Southeast Asia, and Australia. But beneath the calm surface lies chaos. On the environmental side, this ocean is home to deadly cyclones, tsunamis, and monsoons. In 2004, one tsunami alone sent 30-meter-high waves crashing into 14 countries, killing over 230,000 people. Economically and militarily, it's even more complex. The Gulf of Aden, located between Yemen and Somalia, is a major shipping lane for global trade, but it's also been a hotspot for piracy. After Somalia's government collapsed in 1991, illegal foreign fishing and dumping triggered local fishermen to retaliate, eventually turning to full-blown piracy. From 2010 to 2015, roughly 60 pirate attacks happened every year. They came armed with AK-47s, riding small, fast boats and hijacking commercial vessels for ransom. Add to that the geopolitical tension between Saudi Arabia, Iran, and others, and you've got a sea that's as unpredictable as it is vital. The Indian Ocean isn't just wild, it's weaponized. Number 11. Caribbean Sea. Tropical paradise? Sure. But from June through November, the Caribbean transforms into one of the most unpredictable danger zones on the map. Its position puts it directly in the path of hurricanes that form off the coast of West Africa and gain strength while crossing the Atlantic. As moist air rises and condenses into thick cumulonimbus clouds, wind speeds increase, eventually hitting the 11 to 19 km/h mark to be classified as a full-scale hurricane. These aren't just minor squalls either. We're talking about massive storm systems, hundreds of kilometers wide and several kilometers tall. When they make landfall, the destruction is swift and unforgiving. One of the most infamous examples, Hurricane Katrina. It tore through the Caribbean and the southern U.S., leaving nearly 1,400 people dead and causing an estimated $145 billion in damages. Behind the turquoise waters and beach resorts lies a region that during hurricane season becomes a dangerous corridor of wind, water, and devastation. Number 10. Dead Sea. The Dead Sea may not stir up monster waves or deadly currents, but its danger comes from something more subtle: its chemistry. Sitting between Jordan, Israel, and Palestine, it's one of the saltiest bodies of water on Earth, with a salinity that's nearly 10 times saltier than the average ocean. While many praise its mineral-rich waters for their skin-healing properties, extended exposure is far from relaxing. Staying in too long can cause dehydration, electrolyte imbalances, and burning if the water touches your eyes, nose, or mouth. And though it's called the Dead Sea because no aquatic life survives in it, that lifelessness is symbolic of its other danger: ecological collapse. Rapid evaporation and human diversion of water sources have caused the sea to shrink dramatically in recent decades. Sinkholes now plague its shores, some big enough to swallow entire buildings. So while floating in its waters might feel like a novelty, this iconic salt lake hides both environmental risk and personal discomfort beneath the surface. Number 9. Bering Sea. The Bering Sea doesn't need much of an introduction. Its reputation speaks for itself. Nestled between Alaska and Russia, this stretch of water is infamous for brutal cold, violent storms and waves that seem straight out of a maritime horror story. Made popular by shows like The Deadliest Catch, it's a goldmine for crab fishing and resource extraction, but it comes at a cost. Arctic winds rip across its surface, temperatures drop dangerously low, and the shallow seafloor causes waves to crash harder than in deeper regions. It's not uncommon for water levels to swing by nearly 9 meters in a single day. Ice flows, sudden gales, and thick fogs only raise the stakes. Despite its economic value, the sea remains a death trap for vessels that aren't built to endure its punishing climate. This isn't a place where you test your limits. It's where even seasoned captains tread carefully, knowing that one wrong call could be the last one they make. Number 8. Drake Passage. If there's a proving ground for sailors, it's the Drake Passage. Located between Chile and Antarctica, this 800-kilometer-wide stretch connects the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, and it's not a welcoming handshake. The mixing of cold Antarctic water and warmer northern currents creates violent eddies and massive swells, and with no large land masses nearby to buffer the chaos, conditions can change in an instant. Sailors have dubbed it the Drake Shake for good reason. Storms are frequent, waves can reach 12 meters, and the wind has no chill, literally. Despite all this, it remains a vital route for scientific and commercial vessels making their way to Antarctica. While modern ships equipped with stabilizers have made the crossing slightly more bearable, earning it the occasional nickname Drake Lake. the reality is still brutal. This passage is less about navigation and more about endurance. For anyone attempting it, seasickness is the least of your concerns. It's one of the most unpredictable and hostile stretches of water on the planet. Number 7, Pacific Ocean. It may be named after peace, but don't let that fool you. The Pacific Ocean is anything but calm. Spanning more than 20,000 kilometers across, it's the largest and most complex ocean along its western edge lies the Ring of Fire, a volcanic horseshoe, where tectonic plates clash and volcanoes simmer beneath the surface. These underwater mountains are capable of triggering devastating tsunamis that regularly hammer coastal regions across Asia and the Americas. But natural disasters aren't the only concern. Coral reefs, stunning but sharp, pose real threats to both divers and sailors, and the ocean is filled with venomous marine life from box jellyfish to stonefish. Add in the vast, empty expanses where getting stranded means isolation on a terrifying scale, and you've got more than enough reason to stay cautious. The Pacific hides its hostility behind beauty and scale. It's a place where nature's fury, biological hazards, and sheer remoteness collide in one massive, unpredictable force. Number 6, Sea of Azov. The war between Russia and Ukraine has been nothing short of relentless, and few locations have seen more action than the Sea of Azov. This shallow body of water borders both nations and has long been a strategic hotspot. While Russia's broader military campaign has faltered in many areas, one of its few tactical gains has been the transformation of the Sea of Azov into a de facto inland sea under its control. Major coastal cities such as Mariupol, Berdyansk, and Kerch are now occupied, giving Russia control over vital supply routes into Crimea. Ukraine, of course, hasn't stood by quietly. On October 8, 2022, a powerful explosion rocked the Kerch Bridge, destroying road lanes, damaging railway lines, and igniting several oil tankers. No group officially took credit, though Ukrainian involvement is widely assumed. Others suggest it may have been accidental. Whatever the truth, one thing is certain. The Sea of Azov is no longer just a shipping route. It's now a front line, and an extremely dangerous one at that. Number 5, the Baltic Sea. The Baltic Sea looks peaceful at a glance, but what's beneath the surface tells a darker story. After World War II, Britain and the Soviet Union agreed to dump more than 65,000 tons of Nazi Germany's chemical weapons into these waters. The problem? These munitions weren't sealed properly. Over time, toxic substances like mustard gas began leaking, creating a long-term environmental nightmare. A study from Poland's Military University of Technology found active traces of these chemicals just offshore. That's not just alarming, it's a direct threat to marine life and coastal communities. Even worse, there's uncertainty about how much is still hidden and whether more stockpiles exist unaccounted for. The Baltic is now considered one of the most polluted seas in the world, with some researchers calling it a slow-motion time bomb. Without serious cleanup or intervention, the region risks long-term ecological collapse. So while it may not have monster storms or high seas piracy, the danger here lies in something far more insidious: poison buried in the deep. Number 4, the North Sea. Between the shores of the UK, Norway, and Denmark lies the North Sea, icy, storm-prone, and unforgiving. It's rich in oil and fish, which keeps shipping routes busy and economies thriving. But for those who have to work on its waters, it's a brutal battleground. The sea is shallow, amplifying wave strength, and it's regularly battered by prevailing westerly winds that whip up violent storms. Currents are aggressive, the weather changes fast, and winter temperatures dip to near freezing. Hypothermia is a real threat even before a ship goes down. Cyclone activity, combined with atmospheric influences from the North Atlantic, creates a volatile pattern that few seas can match. These forces, plus the relentless cold and heavy maritime traffic, have led to countless shipwrecks over the decades. Despite modern navigation, the North Sea remains one of Europe's most hazardous stretches of water. It's not the kind of place where you go for a peaceful cruise, it's where you respect the elements or pay the price. All right, now let's move. Number 3, the South China Sea. The South China Sea is more than just a contested patch of water. It's a flashpoint in one of the world's most tense geopolitical arenas. Multiple countries, including China, Vietnam, the Philippines, and Malaysia, all claim parts of it, making every nautical mile politically loaded. China has taken a hardline stance by building artificial islands, fortifying them with runways and missile systems. These man-made outposts have effectively expanded China's territorial reach, allowing it to pressure or outright block access to disputed areas. The region is rich in natural resources, fisheries, oil, and key trade routes, which only fuels the territorial tug-of-war. But there's also a physical danger. The southeastern portion, known as the dangerous ground, is littered with submerged reefs, shifting sandbars, and poorly mapped atolls. Even modern navigation systems sometimes fail here. Between the invisible threats under the surface and the political chessboard above it, the South China Sea is a place where the wrong move by ship or state can trigger real consequences. Number 2. The Southern Ocean. The Southern Ocean circles Antarctica like a cold, relentless beast. It's one of the few places on Earth where storms never really stop. They just shift direction. This ocean is unique because it flows uninterrupted around the planet without hitting land, which means there's nothing to slow its momentum. Winds gain speed, waves stack up, and currents build into massive churning corridors of chaos. Scientists have long studied this circumpolar current, as it plays a critical role in regulating Earth's climate, shuttling heat, carbon, and nutrients across hemispheres. In recent years, high-tech buoys and ocean drones have been deployed by New Zealand and others to monitor this system. But let's be honest, no amount of research softens the raw danger. Ships navigating these waters face towering waves, freezing temperatures, and a climate that shows zero mercy. This isn't a place where you go unprepared or alone. While it might be a scientific goldmine, the Southern Ocean remains one of the most dangerous bodies of water on Earth. Number 1. The Sea of Marmara. Tucked entirely within Turkey's borders, the Sea of Marmara once served as a lifeline between the Black and Aegean Seas. Today, it's in crisis. This small inland sea is being suffocated by sea snot, a thick, slimy mass of organic matter caused by an overgrowth of phytoplankton. Agricultural runoff, sewage discharge, and warming waters have triggered massive blooms, turning parts of the sea into a gelatinous graveyard. While the slime isn't toxic in itself, it acts like a petri dish for bacteria like E. coli. It also blocks sunlight, starves marine life of oxygen, and clogs the engines of passing boats. Fish suffocate, biodiversity collapses, and once lively waters turn ghostly. In 2021, the crisis reached a peak, forcing the Turkish government to launch emergency cleanup operations, but the root problems remain. Unless serious reforms are made to waste management and environmental protections, the Sea of Marmara risks becoming biologically dead. For now, it's a cautionary tale. Pollution doesn't just stay on land, it drowns everything.